It's a special Christmas edition of Thursday Night Football, and it's only on Prime Video. Tonight, the Denver Broncos take on the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas night. Cap off your holiday with an old-school rivalry. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern with football's best party, T&F Tonight, presented by Verizon. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial. It's the Broncos and Chiefs tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Happy holidays. Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday.
Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. It is 2 days before Christmas. Christmas Eve actually is tomorrow. And this is a time when those of us in the media were always advised, things are going to get slow, there won't be a lot of stories. Make sure you put everything together with additional stories so you're ready. You don't want airtime that is silent. Well, let me tell you, this year is not a year when news stories are not breaking every which way. In fact, one of the great challenges I have every morning when I sit down to do this recording is to think about how I can address all of the issues which are now so fertile and which, by the way, are growing each and every day. I want to begin by telling you I received tremendous reaction to my podcast yesterday, Dealing with News. And I want you to know that if you take a hard look at Donald Trump's last few months in office, in fact, if you go back just a year when he took office last January 20th, what you will find is that Donald Trump is battling the media. He has a war against the American press. Whether it is his war against Jimmy Kimmel, or his decision to sue the New York Times, or his demand that the Colbert Show be canceled, or that the CBS network agree to a settlement, or that we slash funding for NPR and PBS, or Donald Trump removing the AP from the White House, or, if you will, ABC agreeing to settle a defamation lawsuit, or the war now against 60 Minutes, and you can go on and on and on. What is happening in America today is unconscionable, and it is the fault of Donald Trump. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in freedom of the press. I could not do my podcast every single day, nor speak to all the groups that I speak to in a knowledgeable way without an informed media. I believe in the First Amendment. Donald Trump clearly does not. But this war against the media has escalated to the point where I think there is a real danger to American democracy. Yesterday, when I talked about what has been happening at CBS, I received, as I said, an overwhelming response. People are deeply troubled, and we should be. We, collectively, should be. Because unless we have a free press, unless we have a press which can report the facts, we are in deep, deep trouble. Someone said to me, well, I'm not surprised they're releasing the Epstein Files on the eve of Christmas because it'll be buried. We cannot let it be buried. The Epstein story is a big story, and what is being released is an indication of the problems that we have with Donald Trump. I am intrigued by the fact that so much in the Epstein Files is being redacted. Do you remember the Nixon tape battle? When Nixon tried to edit the tapes, I have a big blue book issued by Richard Nixon's administration, which completely distorted what was in the Watergate tapes. It was because the administration the Nixon administration, wanted to control what we knew and what we didn't know. Thank God the court stepped in and said, nope, the tapes have to be released. And those tapes proved, if you will, the smoking gun, which ended what happened in the Nixon years. What we face now from the Justice Department, the Trump Justice Department, Pam Bondi as Attorney General of the United States, and the others, is something so outrageous, so egregious. They are not conforming with the law. They are not conforming with a near unanimous vote in Congress. Just one Republican congressman did not vote for the release of the Epstein Files. And yet, there seems to be a lack of comprehension about the meaning of all of this. This morning, we read the letter which Epstein, just prior to his death, wrote to Larry Nassar, another abuser of young girls. This reality needs to be discussed. And the fact that Donald Trump was involved in all of this, well, there's no doubt. There's no doubt they were best friends. And if you believe, as I believe, that the facts are now coming out as slowly as possible at the height of the Christmas season, when theoretically, in the Trump administration's eyes, nobody's watching or listening, well, it's terrible. It's absolutely appalling. And we need to be aware and keep our eyes on what's happening. Thank God we have a free, independent media which can report these things. Do you understand? If Trump had his way, there would be no reporting of any of this information. He tried, you will recall, to prevent the vote in Congress. He tried to bury all of this. Let me tell you something. You don't bury something if you think that by releasing it, you can be liberated. Interestingly enough, Bill Clinton says, yeah, there are pictures of me with Epstein. Yes, I did do things, but release it all. Let everything out. And I believe that is what the Trump administration is trying to avoid. I took a look at page after page after page of redacted information, blank material, because the Trump administration has made the decision not to release certain items. The outrage should grow, and it is the responsibility of Donald Trump. Make no mistake. Now, that's not all. I don't want to spend my entire morning with you talking about Epstein, but I want you to be aware that this is important. I want to talk to you about a speech that the Vice President of the United States gave at the Turning Point USA conference, in which he declared, and you can Google it, you can hear him say it, we are a Christian nation. Let me be clear. We are not a Christian nation. Our founders did not create us as a Christian nation. And J.D. Vance, who is running for president and seems to be the favorite for the Republican nomination for president in 2028, everyone should say to him, this is wrong. We are not a Christian nation. Let me explain to you. If the founders had intended that we be a Christian nation, they would have said so. They didn't. It's just that clear. Now, I want to say a word about another prospective Republican candidate for president who is clearly gaining traction, and that is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is evidently going to enter the fray, along with Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance, to succeed Donald Trump. This will be an interesting race, but let me point out what to me is the most disturbing thing of all. There is no moderate Republican. There is no Republican who represents, if you will, the rhinos. There is no Republican running who can reclaim the party. And that bothers me because I believe, as I have said in the past, in a vital, vibrant two-party system. We need to have a Republican Party that is center-right. But what we have is a Republican Party which tragically reflects the nonsense of Donald Trump. Speaking of nonsense, when the announcement was made that a new warship is being created, I was sitting with my older son, and I reacted in horror. He reacted by laughing. Let me tell you, when Donald Trump announces a Trump-class warship that will be the fastest, I'm quoting directly, the fastest, the biggest, 100 times more powerful than any battleship ever built. My friends, it's not a joke. The president is proceeding to create a new class of ship, and he's naming it after himself. I can't make this up. If this were a year ago, before Donald Trump took the presidency, and I had suggested that there would be a Trump-class battleship, if I had suggested the Kennedy Center would be renamed the Donald J. Trump Kennedy Center, if I had suggested that AID would be disbanded, if I had suggested that the Institute for Peace would be called the Donald J. Trump Institute for Peace, if I had said all of that prior to the election of 2024, or if I'd even said it before this year, you would have laughed. We all would have said, this is ridiculous. This is not America. But Donald Trump is going through a process now of rebranding. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that the East Wing of the White House has been destroyed, that Donald Trump intends to build what will most assuredly be called the Donald J. Trump Ballroom, which will be larger than the White House itself. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is an American tragedy. And when the history of these times are written, that tragedy will be clearly felt and understood. Why is it not understood today? Before we conclude, I want to address one world issue, which to me is overwhelming. Have you witnessed in the last few hours the carnage in the Ukraine? Do you know that Russia has launched an attack by drones, by missiles, on the infrastructure of Ukraine, to the point that as Ukraine prepares for a cold winter, that their power sources are being decimated? And where is the outrage of the world? Where is the voice of the world? May I tell you, there is a lesson here. There is a lesson that no matter what we may say, we are impotent in the face of this kind of violence. Well, I, for one, will not be silent. I have waited for a statement by the President, by the Vice President, by the Secretary of Defense, by the National Security Advisor to the President, who happens to be Secretary of State as well. I've been waiting for some resounding outrage. But do you know what we hear from the White House and from the Trump administration? Crickets. We hear nothing. If that is not disturbing, I don't know what is. We must now act for Ukraine. We must give them what they need. And yes, Europe and the United States together must help Ukraine through this very difficult time. Part of the reason we don't is because we all believe that Putin is unbalanced and that we don't want to precipitate a nuclear conflagration. And I understand all of that. But to remain silent, not even to offer rhetorical criticism, is to me outrageous, egregious, and we will be judged harshly by history because we have not spoken out. Let me assure you of something. It was not my intention on the eve of Christmas Eve to deliver this kind of message to all of you. But I believe that to do otherwise I would not be fulfilling my responsibility to you and, frankly, to history. We must be on record. And do you understand? When J.D. Vance says we are a Christian nation, I shudder. When Donald Trump can launch a Trump-class battleship, I shudder. When I watch the response of the Trump administration to what's happening in Ukraine, I shudder. And when I take a look at what's happening in Ukraine, and I feel the impotence of not being able to help the Ukrainian people, well, I shudder. These are difficult times, and these issues need to be addressed. And I believe we will, in due course, I hope, in the new year, respond with greater vigor than we have in the past year. There's a lot riding on our future, and we must speak out. I hope that what I'm doing in these podcasts is helpful. Those of you who do communicate with me indicate appreciation. Spread the word, please. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. You can, of course, write a review on Apple Podcasts, drop a comment on YouTube or Spotify, and click any of the links to the show notes to connect with me on these issues. Remember, please, to share this episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which is, of course, our goal. Let me point out this show has been getting so much positive attention that we are proud to bring on advertising support. This will help us create, we hope, even more opportunities for Around the Political World with John Rothman. This is a difficult time in our history. We are doing our best to keep up with everything. I will be back tomorrow, and you and I will go through this again. Heaven only knows where the world will be. But I know where I will be, and I know where Go-Go Zoger will be. And I want to point out that we appreciate everything that Go-Go does to make sure this show is up and running every single day. To all of you, continue your preparations for your holiday celebrations. I will be back tomorrow, Christmas Eve day, if you will, and we will continue. I will take off Christmas Day, and I hope all of you will as well. But ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing is we have to be optimists. We have to believe things are going to get better. And, well, I am happy to join that crowd. This is John Rothman. You are listening to Around the Political World with John Rothman, and I will be back tomorrow, right here with you. See you then.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening. Happy holidays! Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday.